Adrian Brooks stood in the hotel lobby at 11:47 p.m., his phone pressed to his ear, listening to his daughter's sleepy voice say goodnight from 300 miles away. In 12 hours, he'd secured the biggest deal of his career. In 12 hours, he'd also made a choice that could destroy everything he'd built since his wife died. Because somewhere upstairs, in the only available room in a city shut down by the worst storm in a decade, his boss Victoria Hale was waiting. And the line between professional and personal had already started to blur in ways neither of them could take back. Before we dive into this story, I need you to do something for me. Hit that like button right now and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Now, let's begin. The conference room in Chicago's Millennium Tower had floor-to-ceiling windows that made Adrian Brooks feel like he was floating 40 stories above the city. It was 4:37 p.m. on a Thursday in March, and he'd just closed the Whitmore account, a deal worth $14 million that would put his name on every executive's radar at Morrison & Cross. Victoria Hale stood at the head of the table, her tailored navy suit as sharp as the mind behind it. At 42, she'd built a reputation for turning regional offices into profit centers, and her dark eyes missed nothing. She was watching Adrian now as he fielded questions from the Whitmore team, and something in her expression made his pulse quicken in a way that had nothing to do with the presentation. "Mr. Brooks makes an excellent point," Victoria said, her voice cutting through the room with quiet authority. "The phased implementation approach minimizes risk while maximizing ROI. It's exactly the kind of strategic thinking that sets Morrison and Cross apart." Adrian caught her gaze for just a second, saw the approval there, and felt something dangerous stir in his chest. He'd worked under Victoria for 3 years, had admired her brilliance from a professional distance, had never let himself think of her as anything other than his boss. Because he had Lily to think about, 7 years old, gap-toothed, with her mother's smile and a laugh that could light up his whole world. Everything he did was for Lily. The meeting wrapped at 6:15 p.m. The Whitmore executives shook hands, made promises about paperwork and timelines, and filed out with the satisfied air of people who knew they'd made the right choice. Adrian started packing his laptop, already mentally calculating when he'd get to the airport, what time he'd land, whether Mrs. Chen next door would mind if he picked Lily up a little late. "Adrian," Victoria's voice stopped him. "Well done. That was exceptional work." "Thank you." He zipped his laptop bag, tried to ignore how aware he was of her standing 3 feet away, the subtle scent of her perfume, the way the late afternoon light caught the amber undertones in her brown skin. "Team effort. Don't undersell yourself. You've earned this." She paused, and something flickered across her face, an expression he couldn't quite read. "When we get back to New York, we need to talk about your future at the firm." His heart kicked hard against his ribs. The VP position. It had to be. He'd been quietly hoping, preparing, positioning himself for months. "I'd welcome that conversation." "Good." Victoria smiled, a rare, genuine expression that transformed her usually serious features. "Now let's get out of here before the weather gets worse." That's when Adrian's phone buzzed. A notification from his airline. He pulled it out, saw the words "flight canceled," and felt his stomach drop. "What is it?" Victoria was checking her own phone, her smile fading. No, this can't be." "Storm system," Adrian said, scrolling through the alert. "All flights grounded until tomorrow morning at the earliest. They're saying possible severe weather, risk of tornadoes." Around them, other conference attendees were having similar realizations, voices rising in frustration. Adrian immediately called Mrs. Chen. "Hi, sweetie," the older woman's warm voice came through. "How'd it go?" "Great, but there's a problem. Flights are canceled. I'm stuck here overnight." "Oh, honey, don't you worry about a thing. Lily and I already had dinner. She helped me make dumplings, and she can sleep in my guest room. You just focus on getting home safe tomorrow." Relief flooded through him, followed immediately by the familiar ache of missing a bedtime. Another night when Lily would fall asleep without him there. "Can I talk to her?" "Of course, Lily! Your daddy's on the phone!" There was a scuffling sound, then his daughter's voice, bright with excitement. "Daddy, I got an A on my spelling test." "That's my brilliant girl." Adrian turned away from the chaos of the conference room, pressed the phone closer. "I'm so proud of you. When are you coming home?" "Tomorrow, sweetheart. The airplanes can't fly tonight because of the storm." A pause. Is it a big storm? Are you safe? His throat tightened. She'd been like this since Sarah died, hyper-aware of danger, afraid every goodbye might be permanent. I'm completely safe. I'm in a big, strong building, and tomorrow morning I'll be on a plane home, I promise. Okay. Another pause. Mrs. Chen is teaching me to make pot stickers. That sounds amazing. Save me some? Only if you bring me a present from Chicago. He laughed, the tension in his chest easing slightly. Deal. I love you, Lilypad. Love you too, Daddy. Don't forget the present. When he hung up, Victoria was standing by the windows, her phone pressed to her ear, her spine rigid with frustration. I understand that, but surely there's something. No, I get it. Thank you. She ended the call, closed her eyes briefly. No luck? Adrian asked. Every hotel within 20 miles is either booked solid or lost power. Convention in town, plus everyone whose flights got canceled. She slipped her phone into her purse with controlled precision. My assistant is still trying, but it's not looking good. Same here. Adrian had already called 3 hotels. I might end up sleeping in the airport. That makes 2 of us. They stood there for a moment, 2 people whose carefully ordered lives had just collided with circumstances beyond their control. Through the windows, Chicago's skyline was darkening, storm clouds rolling in like a vast gray army. Victoria's phone rang. Yes, you did. Wait, what do you mean 1 room? She listened, her expression unreadable. I see. And there's nothing else? No, I understand. Book it. Thank you. She looked at Adrian, and something in her eyes made his pulse spike again. The Palmer House has 1 room available. A king suite. My assistant already booked it because I told her anything was better than the airport. Victoria's voice was carefully neutral. The question is whether we can share it professionally or whether one of us should take our chances finding somewhere else. The rational part of Adrian's brain immediately supplied the correct answer. Find somewhere else. Maintain boundaries. Keep everything exactly as it had always been. But the rational part of his brain wasn't accounting for the way Victoria was looking at him, not as a boss to an employee, but as one exhausted human being to another. We're both adults, he heard himself say. We can handle 1 night. You're sure? Are you? Something passed between them then, a silent acknowledgement that this simple logistics decision felt weighted with implications neither of them wanted to examine too closely. I'm sure, Victoria said. Let's go before the weather gets worse. The Palmer House lobby was chaos. Stranded travelers clustered around the desk, some arguing with harried staff, others slumped in chairs with the defeated air of people who'd lost the accommodation lottery. Adrian and Victoria bypassed the crowd. Victoria's assistant had already checked them in remotely and headed straight for the elevators. They rode up in silence, watching the floor numbers climb. Adrian was acutely aware of how close they were standing, of the way Victoria's shoulder nearly brushed his, of how the enclosed space seemed to amplify every breath. This is fine, Victoria said, as if trying to convince herself. We'll order room service, get some work done, sleep, and be out of here by 6 a.m. Absolutely, Adrian agreed. Professional, simple. The suite was on the 18th floor. Victoria unlocked the door, and they stepped into a space that was significantly nicer than either of them had expected. Cream walls, elegant furniture, a sitting area with a couch and desk, and through an open doorway, 1 very large king-sized bed. Adrian set his bag down, carefully not looking at the bed. I can take the couch. Don't be ridiculous. That couch is maybe 5.5 feet long, and you're what, 6'2"? 6'1". It's fine. Adrian. Victoria turned to face him fully, and the use of his first name in that tone, not boss-like, just human, made something shift in the air between them. We're going to have to be reasonable about this. It's a huge bed. We can share it like adults without making this weird. Right, of course. He was making it weird by overthinking it. I'm going to call Lily. Let her know I'm settled. He stepped out onto the small balcony, sliding the door shut behind him. The storm was closer now, wind whipping his hair, the smell of rain sharp in the air. Below, Chicago stretched out in a grid of lights, oblivious to his internal turmoil. Mrs. Chen answered on the second ring. She's already asleep, Adrian, out like a light. That's good. Thank you so much for this. It's my pleasure. You know that. That little girl is a gift. A pause. How are you doing? Really? The question caught him off guard. Mrs. Chen had known him since he'd moved into the building 5 years ago, had watched him struggle through Sarah's death, had been there for countless emergencies and late nights. She'd earned honesty. I'm okay, just stuck in a situation that's more complicated than it should be. Work complicated or life complicated? Both. He watched lightning fork across the distant sky. I'm sharing a hotel room with my boss. A long silence. I see. It's not like that. There were no other options. Mm-hmm. And how do you feel about this boss of yours? She's brilliant, intimidating. She's going to make me VP if I don't screw this up. That's not what I asked. Adrian closed his eyes. I don't know what you're asking. Yes, you do, sweetie, and I think that's what scares you. Her voice gentled. Sarah's been gone 4 years. You're allowed to feel things again. I have Lily to think about. Lily wants you to be happy. You know that, right? That child loves you more than anything, and she's been worried about you being lonely. She told me last week. His throat tightened. She's 7. 7-year-olds notice more than we think. Just don't close yourself off to possibilities because you're afraid. Sarah wouldn't want that. After they hung up, Adrian stood on the balcony for a long moment, trying to organize his thoughts. But the truth kept intruding. He was intensely aware of Victoria on the other side of that glass door. Had been aware of her for months now, in ways he'd refused to acknowledge. The way she commanded a room, the rare, devastating impact of her smile, the mind that could cut through complexity and find solutions he'd never have seen. He'd told himself it was admiration, professional respect. He'd been lying. When he went back inside, Victoria had changed into workout pants and a Georgetown t-shirt, her hair pulled back, her face scrubbed clean of makeup. Somehow, this version of her, unguarded, casual, was more dangerous than the polished executive. I ordered room service, she said. Hope you like burgers. Everything else had an hour wait. Burgers are perfect. He grabbed his own change of clothes. I'm going to. Bathroom's all yours. When he emerged 10 minutes later in sweatpants and a t-shirt, Victoria was sitting on the couch with her laptop, a pair of reading glasses perched on her nose. The sight was so unexpectedly intimate that Adrian had to look away. Work? He asked. Email. The never-ending tide. She glanced up, removed her glasses. You should know, I recommended you for the VP position. Officially. The board review is next month. Adrian sat down in the armchair across from her, his heart rate picking up. Thank you. That means everything. You earned it. Your numbers, your client retention, the way you've built your team, it's all exemplary. She closed her laptop. But there's something I need to ask you, and I need you to be honest. Okay. Are you happy? The question blindsided him. What do you mean? At Morrison and Cross, in New York, with the life you've built. Are you happy? Adrian thought about his apartment, the predictable routine, the careful boundaries he'd constructed around himself and Lily. I'm content, stable. That's what matters. That's not what I asked. Room service arrived before he had to answer, the interruption both welcome and frustrating. They ate at the small dining table, and Adrian was surprised to find himself relaxing slightly. Victoria asked about Lily, genuinely interested questions about school, interests, personality. He found himself talking more than he'd intended, describing his daughter's obsession with dinosaurs, her theatrical storytelling, her determination to read chapter books despite sometimes struggling with the words. She sounds remarkable, Victoria said. She is. She's everything. It must be hard doing it alone. The sympathy in her voice was almost harder to take than the question. You manage. You figure it out. What choice do you have? You could have moved closer to family. Most people would have. My parents retired to Arizona. Sarah's parents blame me for her death. The words came out flat, factual. We were arguing the night of the accident about money, stress, the usual marriage stuff. She was driving angry. The truck that ran the red light, it wasn't her fault, but her parents needed someone to blame who wasn't a random stranger. Victoria's expression shifted to something like pain. Adrian, I'm so sorry. It's okay. It's been 4 years. Lily doesn't remember much about that time, which is probably for the best. He pushed his plate away, suddenly not hungry. Your turn. Why does Victoria Hale, youngest VP in Morrison and Cross history, spend every weekend working instead of having a life? She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Who says I don't have a life? Your assistant told me once that you haven't taken a vacation in 3 years, and I've never seen you mention family, friends, anyone outside of work. Observant. Occupational hazard. Victoria stood, walked to the window. Outside, rain was starting to fall, drops splattering against the glass. You want the honest answer? Always. I was engaged once, 10 years ago, to a man who seemed perfect, ambitious, intelligent, from the right family. We were planning this elaborate wedding, combining households, merging lives. And then one night, about 2 months before the ceremony, I was working late on a presentation. Came home at midnight to find him in our bed with my maid of honor. Jesus. The cliché of it almost made it worse. She laughed, but the sound was bitter. What really hurt was realizing I wasn't actually heartbroken. I was embarrassed, humiliated, angry, but not heartbroken. Because I'd never really loved him. I'd loved the idea of him, the picture it painted, the success story it told. But the actual person? She shook her head. After that, I decided work was safer, more honest. You put in the effort, you get results. No one can cheat on you with your quarterly earnings. Adrian stood, moved to stand beside her at the window. They were close enough that he could feel the warmth radiating from her skin. That's a lonely way to live, says the man who hasn't dated in 4 years. Touché. They stood there as the storm intensified, rain lashing the windows, thunder rolling across the sky. Adrian knew he should step back, put distance between them, but he couldn't seem to move. Can I ask you something? Victoria's voice was quiet. And you can tell me if I'm completely out of line. Go ahead. When you look at me, what do you see? The question hung in the air between them. Adrian could lie, deflect, maintain the professional facade. Or he could tell the truth. I see someone brilliant, he said slowly. Someone who fights for what she believes in. Someone who terrifies me and impresses me in equal measure. He paused. Someone who makes me feel things I promised myself I wouldn't feel again. Victoria turned to face him, and the vulnerability in her expression nearly undid him. You promised yourself? After Sarah died, I made a decision. No complications, no risk. Just focus on being the best father I could be. Keep everything else simple, safe, controlled. He held her gaze. And then tonight, standing in that conference room, watching you work, I realized I've been lying to myself for months. Because every time I see you, every time we're in the same room, I have to actively remind myself why I can't. He stopped himself, but it was too late. The truth was out. Why you can't what? Victoria asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Want you the way I do. The confession hung between them like a live wire. Rain pounded against the windows. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed, and Victoria Hale looked at Adrian Brooks like he'd just said something she'd been desperately hoping to hear. This is a terrible idea, she said. The worst. I'm your boss. There are policies, protocols, potential HR nightmares. I know. If anyone found out, it could derail both our careers. Your promotion, my reputation. Victoria. He reached up, gently touched her face. I know. She closed her eyes, leaned into his touch. I haven't felt this scared in 10 years. Me neither. When she opened her eyes, they were bright with unshed tears. I don't do casual, Adrian. I don't know how. If we cross this line, I'm going to want everything, and I don't know if you're ready to give that. I don't know either, he admitted, but for the first time in 4 years, I want to try. They moved toward each other like planets drawn by gravity, inevitable, inexorable. When their lips met, it wasn't the desperate collision Adrian had half expected. It was slow, questioning, a conversation without words. Victoria's hands came up to his chest, fingers curling into his shirt, and he wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her closer. The kiss deepened, and Adrian felt something crack open inside him, some locked room he'd sealed shut after Sarah's funeral. It wasn't about forgetting. It was about allowing himself to feel alive again, to want something beyond mere survival. They broke apart, both breathing hard. Victoria's eyes were wide, her lips slightly swollen. We should stop, she said, making no move to step away. Probably. Think about what we're doing. I've been thinking for 4 years. I'm tired of thinking. Adrian? He kissed her again, and this time there was no hesitation. They stumbled backward toward the bed, hands exploring, barriers falling away. When they finally collapsed onto the mattress, tangled together, Adrian had one clear thought before rational thinking abandoned him entirely. This changes everything. Adrian woke at 3:47 a.m. to the sound of rain against the windows and Victoria's breathing beside him. The storm had passed its peak, settling into a steady downpour. He lay very still, trying to process what had happened. He'd crossed a line he'd sworn he'd never approach, with his boss. In a hotel room in Chicago while his daughter slept safe in New York, trusting him to make good decisions. Panic started to rise in his chest. Victoria stirred, rolled toward him, her eyes opening. For a moment they just looked at each other in the dim light filtering through the curtains. "Tell me what you're thinking," she said quietly. "That I might have just made the biggest mistake of my life." He saw her flinch, forced himself to continue. "Or the best decision I've made in 4 years. I honestly don't know which." She sat up, pulling the sheet around herself. "We need to talk about this." "I know."
김밥삼.
"What happens now? We go back to New York and pretend this didn't happen. You get your promotion, I transfer to another office. We maintain professional distance and try to forget?" The thought of that, of reducing what they'd shared to a shameful secret, made Adrian's chest tighten. "Is that what you want?" "I don't know what I want. I just know I can't do casual, Adrian. I meant that. If this was a one-time thing, if you wake up tomorrow and regret this, I need you to tell me now." He sat up too, facing her. Outside, lightning flickered, illuminating her face in brief, stark clarity. "My daughter is the most important thing in my life. Nothing changes that. Any decision I make, any risk I take, has to factor in what's best for her." "I understand that. But..." He reached for her hand, laced their fingers together. "Lily asked me something a few months ago. She wanted to know if I was lonely. And I told her no, because I had her, and that was enough. But she looked at me with these big, wise eyes and said, 'Daddy, I'm not enough for you to not be lonely. I'm just enough for you to pretend you're not.'" Victoria's grip on his hand tightened. She's 7 years old, and she already understands something I've been denying for years. I've been using her as an excuse not to risk anything, not to let anyone in. I told myself it was about being a good father, but really it was about being afraid. He met Victoria's eyes. "I'm still afraid. Terrified, actually, but I don't want to pretend anymore." "So what do we do?" "We go back to New York. We talk to HR, disclose the relationship, deal with whatever policies we need to navigate. You recommend me for VP or you don't. That needs to be separate from this. And we figure out what this is between us, slowly, carefully, with Lily's well-being as the top priority. That's a lot of variables, a lot of ways this could go wrong." "I know." Victoria was quiet for a long moment, studying their joined hands. When she looked up, her expression was resolved. "I'm transferring to the Chicago office." "What? Victoria, you can't..." "I've been thinking about it for months, before tonight. The Chicago expansion needs someone senior, and I'm tired of New York. This just accelerates the timeline." She touched his face. "If we're doing this, we're doing it right. No secret relationship, no whispers about favoritism or impropriety. I'll move, you'll get your promotion based on merit, and we'll date like normal people." "You'd uproot your entire life for this. For me? For a chance at something real?" "Yes." She smiled, and it transformed her face. "I've spent 10 years building a career I'm proud of, but I'm 42 years old, and I've never once prioritized my own happiness. Maybe it's time to try." Adrian pulled her close, buried his face in her hair. "I don't deserve this. Neither do I. But maybe we do it anyway." They stayed like that as the storm slowly faded, holding each other, making quiet plans, acknowledging the enormity of what they'd begun. When dawn finally broke over Chicago, they were still awake, still talking, still trying to map out a future that had seemed impossible 12 hours earlier. Adrian's phone buzzed at 6:30 a.m. A text from Mrs. Chen. "Lily's up, asking about you. Call when you can." He dialed immediately. "Hey, Mrs. Chen, can I talk to her?" "Daddy!" Lily's voice was bright, excited. "Did you see the storm? It was so loud." "I did see it, sweetheart. Pretty impressive, right?" "I wasn't scared. Mrs. Chen said storms are just nature being dramatic." He laughed, catching Victoria's eye. She was watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read, tender, cautious, hopeful. "That's a good way to think about it. Listen, my flight's in a few hours. I should be home by lunchtime. With my present?" "With your present. I love you, Lily Pad." "Love you too, Daddy." After he hung up, Victoria stood and started gathering her things. They moved around each other with careful courtesy, getting ready, packing, preparing to return to their normal lives. Except nothing was normal anymore. In the elevator down to the lobby, Victoria spoke quietly. "When we get back, I'm going to need some time. To make the transfer official, to set up the Chicago office, to do this the right way." "I understand. But Adrian?" She looked at him directly. "I meant everything I said last night. This isn't casual for me. This is—" "I know." He wanted to kiss her but held back, aware of the cameras, the other hotel guests. "For me too." The lobby was less chaotic than the night before, but still crowded with travelers trying to catch rescheduled flights. They checked out separately, maintained professional distance, two colleagues who'd weathered a storm together and nothing more. At the airport, they sat in different parts of the gate area. Adrian tried to work, but his mind kept drifting. He'd crossed a threshold he couldn't uncross. Whatever happened next would ripple through every aspect of his life. His phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. "No regrets?" He typed back. "Not one." "You?" Her response came immediately. Just one. "That we can't do this properly until I'm not your boss anymore. The waiting is going to kill me." Adrian smiled, warmth spreading through his chest. "Worth the wait." "Yes, it is." When they boarded the plane, Victoria was in first class and Adrian in economy, a division that seemed symbolic, a reminder of all the boundaries they'd have to navigate. But as the plane lifted off, banking over Chicago's skyline, Adrian felt something he hadn't felt in 4 years. Hope. The storm had forced them into one room, but what happened next? That was choice. Courage. A decision to risk safety for the possibility of something more. He pulled out his phone, scrolled to his photos, found his favorite picture of Lily, gap-toothed grin, dinosaur t-shirt, pure joy. "I'm trying, Lily Pad," he thought. "I'm trying to be brave enough for both of us." The plane broke through the clouds into brilliant sunshine, and Adrian closed his eyes, already counting the hours until he could hold his daughter, tell her about his trip, and begin the complicated, terrifying, exhilarating process of building something new. One storm, one room, one impossible night. And everything had changed. The landing gear touched down at LaGuardia at 2:17 p.m., and Adrian was moving before the seatbelt sign even dinged off. He'd texted Mrs. Chen from the tarmac, told her he'd be there within the hour, tried to ignore the way his heart was racing with anticipation. He needed to see Lily, needed to ground himself in the reality of his life before the events in Chicago started to feel like a fever dream. Victoria had deplaned first, disappeared into the crowd before Adrian even made it to baggage claim. They hadn't spoken during the flight, hadn't acknowledged each other beyond a brief nod when she'd walked past his row. Professional distance, the way it had to be. But his phone buzzed as he waited for his suitcase. Victoria's text was brief. "Safe landing, going straight to the office. We'll talk Monday." He typed back. "Sounds good. Thank you for everything." A pause, then, "Adrian, I meant what I said. All of it. So did I." The suitcase came around the carousel, and Adrian grabbed it, already moving toward the exit. His apartment was in Brooklyn, a modest 2-bedroom in Park Slope that he'd moved into 6 months after Sarah's death. It had good schools nearby, a park 2 blocks away, and rent he could almost afford on a senior associate's salary. If the VP promotion came through, he'd finally have some breathing room, could start saving for Lily's college, maybe even take her on a real vacation. If the VP promotion came through. If Victoria's transfer didn't raise red flags, if no one connected the dots between a hotel room in Chicago and a sudden office relocation. Adrian shook his head, forcing the anxiety down. One step at a time. Mrs. Chen lived 3 doors down, a widow in her 70s who'd adopted Adrian and Lily as surrogate family the moment they'd moved in. When Adrian knocked, He could hear Lily's shriek of excitement from inside. The door flew open. "Daddy!" She launched herself at him, all skinny arms and wild brown hair, and Adrian caught her, lifted her up, buried his face in her shoulder. She smelled like Mrs. Chen's lavender soap and the strawberry shampoo she insisted on using. "Hey, Lily Pad, I missed you. I missed you more. Did you bring my present?" Lily Chen Brooks, let your father breathe, Mrs. Chen chided, but she was smiling. Come in, come in. I made tea." Adrian set Lily down but kept hold of her hand as they went inside. Mrs. Chen's apartment was exactly like his own in layout, but felt entirely different, warm, lived in, filled with photographs and knickknacks collected over a lifetime. It smelled like jasmine and ginger. "So?" Mrs. Chen said, studying his face with those sharp, knowing eyes. "How was Chicago?" "Productive. We closed the deal. And the hotel situation?" Adrian felt heat creep up his neck. Lily was already digging through his suitcase, looking for her present, not paying attention to the adult conversation. "It was fine. Professional," Mrs. Chen hummed, a sound that conveyed profound skepticism. "Professional. I see. Can we not do this right now?" "Do what?" "I'm just asking about your trip. You're fishing, and you know it. I found it." Lily held up the small box Adrian had grabbed at the airport gift shop that morning, a Chicago snow globe with the skyline inside. Not exactly creative, but she'd seemed excited about snow globes lately. "It's so pretty. Can I shake it?" "That's what it's for, sweetheart." She shook it vigorously, watching the glitter swirl around the tiny buildings. Her face lit up with pure joy, and Adrian felt something crack in his chest. The same feeling he'd had watching her be born, the overwhelming love mixed with terror at how fragile happiness could be. "Thank you, Daddy. I love it." "You're welcome, baby." Mrs. Chen made tea while Lily chattered about her week, the spelling test, the pot stickers, a fight with her best friend Emma over who got to be the T-Rex during recess. Adrian listened, responded, tried to be fully present. But part of his mind kept drifting back to Victoria, to the feeling of her hand in his, to the promise they'd made. When Lily finally ran off to play with her snow globe in Mrs. Chen's spare room, the older woman turned to Adrian with an expression of gentle concern. "You're different," she said. "I'm tired." "That's not what I mean." She poured more tea, slid the cup across to him. "You're lighter somehow, and more terrified. That's an interesting combination." Adrian wrapped his hands around the warm cup. "I think I might have done something really stupid, or really right. I can't tell which yet." "With your boss?" "Her name is Victoria." "So it's Victoria now." Mrs. Chen smiled. "Tell me about her." And somehow, sitting in this warm kitchen with tea and the sound of Lily playing in the next room, Adrian found himself talking. Not about the physical details of that night. Mrs. Chen definitely didn't need to know those, but about the conversation, the connection, the feeling of being truly seen for the first time in years. "She's transferring to Chicago," he said, "to avoid any conflict of interest with my promotion. She's upending her whole life for this, and we haven't even been on a real date yet. Sounds like a woman who knows what she wants. Or someone making a huge mistake. Maybe." Mrs. Chen sipped her tea. "Or maybe you're both finally brave enough to reach for something real. You've been treading water since Sarah died, Adrian, keeping yourself and Lily safe, but not really living. This woman, Victoria, she sounds like she might be the current that pulls you back to shore. What if I drown instead?" "Then you drown, but at least you'll have tried." She reached across, patted his hand. "Lily needs a happy father more than she needs a safe one. And you need to let yourself want things again." Adrian thought about that as he and Lily walked home later, her small hand in his, the snow globe clutched protectively to her chest. The spring afternoon was warm, cherry blossoms starting to bloom in the neighborhood's tree-lined streets. They stopped at their favorite bodega for groceries, and Lily convinced him to buy the fancy ice cream because he'd been gone for 2 whole days and she deserved it. In their apartment, Adrian made dinner while Lily did homework at the kitchen table. It was their routine, comfortable and predictable. He'd built a good life here, a safe life. But for the first time, safe didn't feel like enough. His phone buzzed. "Victoria, how's your daughter?" He smiled, typed back, "Perfect." Demanding. Currently arguing with her math homework. She sounds wonderful. She is. How's the office? Paperwork heavy. I filed the transfer request. Should be official by Wednesday. Adrian's heart jumped. That fast? I told you. I know what I want. Victoria. Yes? He looked at Lily, bent over her workbook, tongue sticking out slightly in concentration. Thank you for doing this the right way. There's no other way to do it, not with something this important. They texted sporadically through the evening, nothing substantial, just small updates and observations. It felt dangerous and domestic all at once, this easy communication, like they were already more than what they were. When Adrian tucked Lily into bed at 8:30, she looked up at him with serious eyes. Daddy, are you happy? The question hit him like a punch. What makes you ask that, sweetheart? You seem different. Smiley-er. Smiley-er isn't a word. It is now. I invented it. She grinned, then her expression sobered. I like it when you're happy. You should be happy more. Adrian brushed hair back from her forehead. I'm happy when I'm with you. I know, but Mrs. Chen says you need more than just me to be really happy. She says grown-ups need grown-up friends too. Mrs. Chen talks too much. She's smart, though. She taught me how to fold dumplings. Lily yawned, her eyes already drooping. I want you to have friends, Daddy, even if it means you're busy sometimes. I'm okay with that. His throat tightened. When did you get so wise? I was born wise. You tell me that all the time. He kissed her forehead. I love you, Lilypad. Love you too. Don't forget to be happy, okay? After she fell asleep, Adrian stood in her doorway for a long moment, just watching her breathe. She was so small, so trusting, so certain that the world would work out if people just tried hard enough. He wanted to preserve that faith, protect her from the complicated reality of adult relationships and risk. But maybe Mrs. Chen was right. Maybe the best way to protect her was to show her that it was okay to be brave. His phone buzzed. Victoria. Still up? Yeah, just put Lily to bed. Can I call you? I know it's late, but I need to hear your voice. Adrian glanced at Lily's closed door, then walked out onto the fire escape, his designated spot for phone calls and moments when the apartment felt too small. He dialed. Victoria answered on the first ring. Hi, she said, and the warmth in her voice made his chest ache. Hi yourself, rough day? Just long. I keep replaying last night in my head, wondering if I imagined how good it felt. You didn't imagine it. Good. A pause. I'm scared, Adrian. Me too. I submitted my transfer request to James Morrison himself. He wanted to know why the sudden urgency, and I told him I'd been considering it for months, which is true, but he looked at me like he knew there was more to the story. Adrian's stomach tightened. Did he ask about Chicago? About the trip? No, but he's not stupid. If anyone starts digging, connects dots. She trailed off. I just need you to know that if this blows up, if there are consequences, I don't regret it. Any of it. Victoria, let me finish. I've spent 10 years playing it safe, following every rule, sacrificing everything personal for professional success. And I'm good at my job, but I'm lonely as hell. Last night was the first time in a decade I felt like myself. Like a whole person, not just a title and a quarterly report. Her voice wavered slightly. So even if this ends badly, even if we crash and burn, I need you to know it was worth it. Adrian gripped the phone tighter. Below him, Brooklyn stretched out in a sea of lights, millions of people living their own complicated lives. It's not going to end badly. You can't promise that. No, but I can promise to fight for it. For us. For whatever this is becoming. What if your daughter hates me? The question caught him off guard. What? I've never been around kids, Adrian. I don't know how to talk to them, what they need, how to be. Whatever it is you need me to be in her life. What if I'm terrible at it? He could hear the real fear behind the words, the vulnerability she rarely showed. Lily is the most forgiving, open-hearted person I know. She's going to love you because I... He stopped himself, the word hanging unspoken between them. Too soon, way too soon, but Victoria heard it anyway. Because you what? Because I care about you, and kids are good at sensing that stuff. A long silence, then softly. I care about you too, more than I should after one night. Same. They talked for another hour, about nothing and everything, their voices low and intimate. Victoria told him about her day, the transfer logistics, the apartment she'd need to find in Chicago. Adrian told her about Lily's snow globe, Mrs. Chen's knowing looks, the strange sensation of keeping a secret that felt both necessary and dishonest. When they finally hung up, it was past midnight. Adrian stayed on the fire escape, looking up at the sliver of sky visible between buildings, trying to organize his thoughts. Everything was happening so fast. Too fast, maybe. But it also felt inevitable, like a story that had been waiting to be told. His phone buzzed again. This time, a text from an unknown number. This is James Morrison. Need to see you in my office Monday at 9 a.m. Come alone. Adrian's blood ran cold. He called Victoria immediately. She answered groggily. Adrian, what's wrong? Morrison just texted me, wants to see me Monday morning, alone. He heard her sit up. What did it say exactly? He read the message. Victoria swore, a rare break in her usually controlled demeanor. It could be about the promotion, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Or he knows. We don't know that. Don't panic yet. Easy for you to say. Adrian, her voice firmed. Listen to me. We disclose nothing inappropriate because nothing inappropriate happened in a professional context. We're two single adults who spent one night together on a business trip. Even if Morrison suspects something, he has no grounds for action, and your promotion is based on merit, on years of exceptional work. He can't take that from you. He can if he thinks I slept my way into it. You didn't, and I'll burn the whole company down before I let anyone suggest otherwise. The fierce protectiveness in her tone made Adrian's chest tighten. We're going to be fine, but you need to go into that meeting confident, professional, and clear about your value to the firm. Okay? Okay? Yeah, you're right. I'm spiraling. It's understandable, but Adrian? Whatever happens Monday, we face it together. You're not alone in this. After they hung up, Adrian sat on the fire escape for a long time, trying to quiet the anxiety. He'd worked so hard to build stability for Lily, to create a life where they were safe and secure. And now, because of one night, one choice, it might all be in jeopardy. But then he thought about Victoria's voice, the way she'd immediately gone into protective mode, the certainty with which she'd said they'd face it together. Maybe that was worth the risk. The weekend passed in a blur of forced normalcy. Adrian took Lily to the park, helped her with a school project about dinosaurs, made her favorite pancakes Sunday morning. But underneath it all, dread coiled in his stomach like a snake. Sunday night, Victoria called. I can't sleep, she admitted. Keep running through scenarios in my head. Me too. What are you going to say to him? The truth, that I did exceptional work on the Whitmore account, that my promotion is earned, that my personal life is exactly that, personal. Good. A pause. I wish I could be there with you. Me too, but that would definitely not help the optics. She laughed, a sad sound. No, I suppose not. Victoria, when you move to Chicago, when we start doing this for real, are we going public about it? You mean like social media official? Changing our relationship status? I mean like telling people, friends, family, Lily. Eventually, yes. If this is real, and I think it is, then hiding feels wrong, but slowly, carefully, with Lily's feelings as the priority. Adrian closed his eyes, imagining that conversation with his daughter, telling her that he'd met someone, that he wanted to date again, that things might change. She'd said she wanted him to be happy, but understanding that an abstract and accepting a real person in their lives were very different things. I'm terrified of screwing this up, he admitted. The relationship or the conversation with Lily? Both, all of it. I haven't done this in over a decade, Victoria, and back then I didn't have a kid to consider. We'll figure it out together. That's what people do, right? They figure it out. Is it weird that I find your uncertainty comforting? Probably, but I'll take it. He could hear the smile in her voice. Get some sleep, Adrian. Tomorrow's going to be fine. But Monday morning came too fast and nothing about it felt fine. Adrian arrived at Morrison & Cross at 8:45, dressed in his best suit, Resume updated and printed just in case this went the way he feared. The office was already buzzing with activity, people moving through the sleek chrome and glass spaces with purposeful energy. James Morrison's office was on the 42nd floor, with views of Manhattan that probably cost more than Adrian's annual salary. The assistant, a severe woman named Patricia, looked up when Adrian approached. "Mr. Brooks, he's expecting you. Go right in." Adrian knocked, heard Morrison's gravelly "enter," and stepped inside. James Morrison was 63, silver-haired, and possessed the kind of presence that made boardrooms fall silent. He'd built Morrison and Cross from a small firm into a national powerhouse over 4 decades. People respected him. People also feared him. "Adrian, sit." Adrian sat, keeping his spine straight, his expression neutral. Morrison studied him for a long moment, fingers steepled under his chin. "How was Chicago?" "Successful. The Whitmore account is locked in, 14 million over 3 years." "So I heard. Impressive work." Morrison leaned back in his leather chair. "Victoria Hale speaks very highly of you." Adrian's heart rate spiked, but he kept his voice steady. "I'm fortunate to work with someone of her caliber. She's submitted a transfer request to Chicago, effective immediately." "I heard. The expansion there makes sense." "It does." Morrison's eyes were sharp, assessing. "Interesting timing, though, wouldn't you say?" This was it, the moment of truth. Adrian met Morrison's gaze directly. "Sir, if you're asking whether something inappropriate occurred between Ms. Hale and myself, the answer is no. We shared a hotel room due to emergency weather circumstances and a complete lack of available accommodations. We maintained professional boundaries throughout, but it wasn't exactly a lie. They had maintained professional boundaries until they'd deliberately, consciously chosen to cross them. But that had been personal, not professional, a distinction Morrison couldn't prove otherwise. Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Then he opened a folder on his desk. "Your performance reviews are exceptional. Your client retention rate is the highest in your division. Your team respects you, your work is impeccable, and you've exceeded targets for 3 consecutive years." He looked up. "The VP position is yours, Adrian. Congratulations." The relief hit Adrian like a physical wave. "Thank you, sir. Thank you." "Don't thank me. You earned it." Morrison closed the folder. "But let me be very clear about something. This promotion is based entirely on merit. If I ever discover that professional decisions at this firm are being influenced by personal relationships, there will be consequences. Severe ones. Do you understand?" "Absolutely." "Good. Your new salary and benefits package will be sent to HR today. You start in the new role next Monday. We'll make the announcement Wednesday." Morrison stood, extended his hand. "Welcome to the executive team." Adrian shook his hand, managed to make it out of the office without his legs giving out. In the elevator down to his floor, he pulled out his phone with shaking hands. The text to Victoria was simple. "I got it. VP." Her response came instantly. "I knew you would. Congratulations. You earned this. Thank you for everything. Celebrate with Lily tonight. You deserve it." Adrian smiled, pocketed his phone, and for the first time in days, let himself breathe. The rest of the day passed in a blur of congratulations from colleagues, paperwork from HR, and the surreal feeling of having achieved something he'd worked toward for years. His new office was 3 floors up, with actual windows and space for more than just a desk and filing cabinet. When he picked Lily up from school that afternoon, she took one look at his face and grinned. Something good happened. Something very good happened. "How do you feel about celebrating with pizza and ice cream?" "Both?" "Both. Best day ever." At their favorite pizza place, a tiny spot 2 blocks from their apartment with red checkered tablecloths and a jukebox in the corner, Adrian told Lily about the promotion. "Does this mean you're the boss now?" she asked, around a mouthful of pepperoni. "Not the boss, but a bigger boss than I was before." "Do you get to tell people what to do?" "Sometimes. Mostly I get to help people do better work." She considered this. "Will you have to travel more?" The question hit him harder than it should have. "Maybe sometimes. Would that bother you?" Lily shrugged, but he saw the flash of worry in her eyes. "Mrs. Chen is nice, but I like it when you're home." "Me too, baby. And any traveling I do, I promise it'll be as little as possible. You're still my number one priority. That never changes. Okay? She took another bite of pizza. Can we get a dog now that you make more money? Adrian laughed. We'll see. His phone buzzed. Victoria, I'm heading to Chicago Thursday to look at apartments. Wish you could come with me. He typed back, me too. Let me know how it goes. Will do. Tell Lily, congratulations from me. Adrian looked at his daughter, happily working on her second slice of pizza, completely oblivious to the complicated adult world swirling around her. Eventually, he'd have to tell her about Victoria. Introduce them. Hope that Lily's generous heart had room for one more person. But not yet. Not until he was sure this was real, lasting, worth the disruption to their carefully balanced life. Daddy, you're doing the thinking face. Sorry, just planning. Lots of new responsibilities. It's okay. You're good at planning. She grinned, showing the gap where her front tooth used to be. That's why you're the boss now. After dinner, they walked home through twilit streets, Lily chattering about her day while Adrian half listened, his mind already spinning forward to the future. Victoria in Chicago, building a life there. Him in New York with Lily, trying to figure out how to bridge 3 states and 1,000 complications. It wouldn't be easy. But as Lily slipped her hand into his, trusting and certain, Adrian realized something important. The hard things were usually worth it. 3 weeks passed in a strange limbo of professional triumph and personal restraint. Adrian settled into his VP role with the focused intensity that had always defined his work, leading strategy sessions and client meetings with a confidence he was only half faking. The salary increase meant he could finally breathe financially, could start the college fund he'd been putting off, could say yes when Lily asked for things without mentally calculating his checking account balance. But every night, after Lily went to bed, he'd find himself on the fire escape with his phone, talking to Victoria until the early hours of the morning. She'd found an apartment in Lincoln Park, a neighborhood she described as walkable and tree-lined with good coffee shops. Her official start date at the Chicago office was set for the 1st of May, just 2 weeks away. They texted constantly throughout the day, brief messages that felt like lifelines, proof that what happened in that hotel room hadn't been a dream, but they hadn't seen each other since the flight home. Not once. Victoria had been deliberately avoiding the New York office, handling her transition remotely, and Adrian knew why. The distance was necessary, protective, a buffer against anyone noticing the way they looked at each other. It was driving him slowly insane. You're distracted again, his colleague Marcus said during a Thursday afternoon meeting. That's the 3rd time I've had to repeat myself. Adrian shook his head, forcing himself back to the present. Sorry, late night with Lily. She's doing a project on the solar system. Marcus grinned. Kids, man. They're exhausting, but hey, at least you don't have to deal with teenage drama yet. My daughter just turned 13 and suddenly I'm the stupidest person alive. Looking forward to it, Adrian said dryly, though the thought sent a spike of anxiety through him. Lily, at 13, navigating middle school and friendship drama and eventually dating. Would he still be doing this alone, or would Victoria be there, helping him figure it out? The assumption startled him. They'd known each other for years professionally, but personally. It had been less than a month since Chicago. Way too soon to be imagining a future that involved shared parenting decisions. But he was imagining it anyway. His phone buzzed. Victoria. Flight to Chicago leaves in 2 hours. Nervous. You're going to be amazing. That office is lucky to have you. Sweet talker. Miss you. Miss you too. When can I see you? Actually see you, not just text you? Adrian glanced at his calendar, mentally calculating Lily's school schedule, Mrs. Chen's availability, the optics of flying to Chicago. I don't know. Soon. That's not an answer. I know. I'm working on it. A pause, then, I'm not pushing, just, it's hard being this close and this far away at the same time. Tell me about it. That evening, Adrian picked Lily up from her after-school art program and immediately knew something was wrong. She was quiet in the car, staring out the window instead of her usual chattering about her day. What's up, Lilypad? You okay? Emma's parents are getting divorced. Adrian's hands tightened on the steering wheel. I'm sorry to hear that, sweetheart. That must be hard for her. She cried during recess, said her dad is moving to a different house and she only gets to see him on weekends. Lily turned to look at him, her eyes too serious for 7 years old. Is that what happens when parents don't love each other anymore? Sometimes. Every family is different. But you and Mommy loved each other, right? Before she died? The question hit him like a punch. They'd talked about Sarah before, of course, but Lily's memories of her mother were fragmented at best. She'd been 3 when Sarah died, just old enough to remember impressions and feelings, but not concrete details. We did love each other, Adrian said carefully. Very much. We had problems sometimes, like all couples do, but we loved each other and we loved you more than anything. Emma said her parents fight all the time. That's why they're divorcing. Did you and Mommy fight? Adrian pulled into their building's parking garage, killed the engine, turned to face his daughter. Sometimes, yes, but fighting doesn't mean you don't love someone. It means you're trying to work through hard things together. But Mommy died before you could work through them. The insight was startling, painful in its clarity. Yeah, baby, she did. Lily was quiet for a moment, processing. Then, do you wish you could fall in love again, like with someone new? Adrian's heart stopped. What makes you ask that? Mrs. Chen says everyone deserves love. And you're really nice, Daddy. Someone should love you. He reached over, unbuckled her seatbelt, pulled her into an awkward hug across the center console. I have you. That's more than enough love for me. But I'm your kid. That's different than grown-up love. She pulled back, looked at him with those wise, worried eyes. I wouldn't be sad if you found someone, just so you know. Adrian had to swallow hard against the emotion rising in his throat. That's very generous of you, but right now, I'm focused on being the best dad I can be, okay? Okay. She grabbed her backpack. Can we have tacos for dinner? Absolutely. But later, after Lily was asleep and Adrian was alone with his thoughts, her words kept echoing in his head. She wouldn't be sad if he found someone. She'd essentially given him permission, in the way only a 7-year-old could, to want something beyond their insulated little world. He texted Victoria. Lily asked me today if I wanted to fall in love again. The response came quickly. What did you tell her? That I was focused on being a good dad. But she said she wouldn't be sad if I found someone. Smart kid. Terrifyingly smart sometimes. What do you want to tell her? Eventually? Adrian stared at the question for a long time before typing. The truth. That I met someone who makes me want to be brave again. Adrian. Yeah? I'm falling for you. Like actually falling. Is that crazy after one night and 3 weeks of phone calls? His heart was pounding so hard he could hear it. If it is, we're both crazy. I can live with that. Me too. Come to Chicago this weekend, please. I need to see you. Adrian thought about Lily, about Mrs. Chen, about the optics and the risk, and all the rational reasons to wait. Then he thought about Victoria's voice on the phone every night, the way she listened when he talked about Lily, the fierce protectiveness she'd shown when Morrison had called him in. I'll figure it out. Friday morning, Adrian approached Mrs. Chen with a request he'd been rehearsing all night. I need a favor. A big one. She looked up from her morning tea, eyebrows raised. This sounds serious. Would you be willing to watch Lily this weekend? I need to go to Chicago. For work? Adrian hesitated, then decided on honesty. Mrs. Chen would see through anything less. For Victoria. She moved there this week, and I need to see her. Actually see her, not just talk on the phone. Mrs. Chen smiled, a knowing, gentle expression. About time. Of course I'll watch Lily. You go. Be with your person. I haven't told Lily yet. About Victoria, about any of this. That's wise. Let it be real first before you introduce complications. She reached across, patted his hand. But Adrian, when you do tell her, trust that she can handle it. That child has more emotional intelligence than most adults I know. I know. That's what scares me. Fear is just love in disguise, sweetie. Remember that. That evening, Adrian told Lily he had to go to Chicago for a quick work meeting, would be back Sunday night. She accepted it easily, excited about a weekend with Mrs. Chen who'd promised to teach her how to make soup dumplings. The guilt Adrian felt lying to his daughter was sharp and immediate, but he pushed it down. This wasn't really a lie. He was going to Chicago. He just wasn't going for work. His flight left Saturday morning at 7. Adrian sat in the airport terminal with coffee he didn't want, watching families and business travelers and people living their complicated lives, and wondered if he was making a huge mistake. Then his phone buzzed. Victoria. Landing in 2 hours. Can't wait to see you. Not a mistake, he decided. A risk, but worth it. Chicago looked different in daylight, without storm clouds and desperation. Adrian took an Uber from O'Hare to Lincoln Park, watching the city unfold through the window. Lake Michigan, stretching blue and endless, neighborhoods transitioning from commercial to residential, trees just starting to bloom with spring green. Victoria's new apartment was in a brownstone building that looked like it had been there for 100 years. Adrian stood on the sidewalk, staring up at the third-floor windows, suddenly paralyzed with nerves. He'd flown 3 states to see a woman he'd spent one night with. A woman who was his former boss, who'd upended her life partially because of him, who represented every complication he'd spent 4 years avoiding. His phone rang. Victoria. I see you standing on the sidewalk looking terrified. You coming up, or should I come down? Adrian looked up, saw her silhouetted in the window, and felt something in his chest unlock. Coming up? She met him at the apartment door, and for a moment they just looked at each other. She was wearing jeans and an old Northwestern sweatshirt, her hair in a messy bun. No makeup. She looked younger, softer, beautiful in a way that made his breath catch. Hi, she said. Hi yourself. Then she was in his arms, and kissing her felt like coming home and jumping off a cliff simultaneously. They stumbled into the apartment, barely breaking apart, desperate to close 3 weeks of distance. When they finally separated, both breathing hard, Victoria laughed shakily. Sorry, I meant to give you a tour first. Be civilized. Civilization is overrated. Adrian looked around the apartment, taking in the half-unpacked boxes, the furniture that looked new and carefully chosen, the large windows letting in afternoon light. This is nice, really nice. It's temporary, a 6-month lease while I figure out if I want to buy. She grabbed his hand, pulled him toward the kitchen. Come on, I made lunch. Well, I ordered lunch and put it on plates. Does that count? They ate sandwiches at her tiny dining table, and it was so normal, so domestic, that Adrian felt something close to panic. This was real. Not a hotel room in a storm, not late-night phone calls, but actual relationship building. The kind that required planning and compromise and vulnerability. You're overthinking again, Victoria said. I can see it on your face. Sorry, habit. Talk to me. What's going on in that head? Adrian set down his sandwich. I lied to Lily, told her this was a work trip. Okay. I've never lied to her before. Not about anything important. And you think this is important? Don't you? Victoria reached across the table, took his hand. Adrian, I moved my entire life to a different city partially because of you. Yes, I think this is important, but I also think we're allowed to figure ourselves out before we introduce a 7-year-old into the equation. She asked me this week if I wanted to fall in love again. Said she wouldn't be sad if I found someone. What did you tell her? That I was focused on being a good dad. But the truth is, I think I'm already falling, and that terrifies me because if this doesn't work out, if we try and fail, it's not just me who gets hurt. It's her too eventually, when she figures out there was something I kept from her. Victoria squeezed his hand. Then we don't fail. It's not that simple. Why not? We're both adults. We know what we want. We're willing to work for it. She stood, came around the table, sat on his lap facing him. I'm not saying this will be easy. Long distance, your daughter, our careers, all the logistics. It's complicated. But Adrian, I haven't felt this alive in 10 years. You make me want things I thought I'd given up on. So yeah, maybe I'm terrified too. But I'd rather be terrified and trying than safe and alone. Adrian wrapped his arms around her waist, buried his face in her shoulder. When did you get so brave? When I met someone worth being brave for. They spent the rest of the day in the apartment, talking and kissing and slowly unpacking boxes like playing house. Victoria showed him her new office downtown, a corner suite with views of the river. They walked through Lincoln Park, the actual park, watching dogs and families and joggers, and Adrian tried to imagine doing this regularly, being part of her Chicago life. That evening, they made dinner together, pasta and salad, nothing fancy, and argued playfully about whether garlic belonged in the sauce. Victoria won by kissing him mid-argument and Adrian decided he was fine with losing if that's what it got him. Later, lying in her bed with the city sounds filtering through the windows, Victoria traced patterns on his chest. Tell me about her. Really tell me. What's she like? Lily? Adrian smiled at the ceiling. She's fierce, stubborn. She has this imagination that's bigger than anything I've ever seen. Last week she spent an hour explaining to me the social hierarchy of dinosaurs, complete with political alliances and betrayals. She made me take notes. Victoria laughed. She sounds incredible. She is, but she's also fragile in ways she doesn't show. After Sarah died, she stopped talking for 3 months, just completely silent. The therapist said it was her way of processing trauma, and even now she gets anxious when I travel, terrified something will happen to me. That's why you're so protective. Yeah, I can't, his voice caught. I can't be one more person who leaves her. I won't survive it, and neither will she. Victoria propped herself up on one elbow, looked down at him seriously. Adrian, I'm not going anywhere. And when the time comes to meet her, I'm going to show up as myself. Not trying to be her mother, not trying to replace anyone, just someone who cares about her dad and wants to be part of both your lives. What if she doesn't like you? Then we'll work on it, together, because that's what people do when they're building something real. She kissed him softly. I'm in this, Adrian. All the way in. Are you? He pulled her closer, answering with his body what words couldn't quite capture. Yes, he was in. Terrified and uncertain and completely in. Sunday morning came too fast. Adrian's flight left at 2, which meant leaving Victoria's apartment by noon. They had breakfast at a diner down the street, sitting in a corner booth holding hands across the table like teenagers, and Adrian tried not to think about the goodbye waiting for them. When can you come back? Victoria asked. I don't know. Lily's got her school play in 2 weeks, then there's a client meeting in Boston I can't miss. Maybe mid-June? That's 6 weeks away. I know. Adrian rubbed his thumb across her knuckles. You could come to New York, see the office, meet people. Won't that raise questions? Probably, but you're allowed to visit your old colleagues, and I'd really like to see you before 6 weeks. Victoria smiled. Okay, I'll check my calendar. Maybe I can swing a long weekend. At the airport, they sat in the departures area until the last possible moment, neither wanting to let go. This is harder than I thought it would be, Victoria admitted. Leaving? No, falling for you. She looked at him with eyes that were suspiciously bright. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for you to realize this is too complicated, for the distance to wear us down. But then you look at me like that and I think maybe we actually have a shot. Adrian cupped her face in his hands. We have more than a shot. We have intention, choice, the willingness to fight for this. You're kind of romantic when you want to be. Don't spread that around. It'll ruin my reputation. She kissed him one last time, long and deep, and full of promise. When they finally broke apart, Adrian forced himself to stand, grab his bag, walk toward security. He looked back once and saw her standing there, hands in her pockets, watching him go. She raised one hand in a small wave, and Adrian felt his heart crack and expand simultaneously. On the plane, he pulled out his phone, sent a text. Already miss you. Her response came as the plane was taxiing. Same. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being brave with me. Always. When Adrian landed in New York, Lily was waiting at the apartment with Mrs. Chen, vibrating with excitement about the soup dumplings they'd made. She launched into an elaborate explanation of folding techniques, and Adrian listened, grateful for the distraction, for the normalcy of his daughter's voice. But later, after Mrs. Chen left and Lily was getting ready for bed, she looked at him with those too perceptive eyes. Your trip was good? Yeah, baby. Very productive. You look happy. Different happy than when you got the promotion. Adrian sat on the edge of her bed. What kind of happy do I look? She scrunched up her face, thinking. Like when I showed you my drawings and you said they were museum quality, proud happy and also surprised happy. He laughed, ruffled her hair. That's pretty specific. I'm good at noticing things. She yawned, already half asleep. I'm glad you're happy, Daddy. You deserve it. After she drifted off, Adrian stood in her doorway thinking about truth and timing and the fine line between protecting your child and being honest with them. Lily had essentially told him she'd be okay with him finding someone. Victoria had said to wait until it was real before introducing complications. But how much more real did it need to be? He was flying to different cities to see her. She'd moved her whole life. They talked every night until he couldn't keep his eyes open. If that wasn't real, what was? His phone buzzed. Victoria. Got home safe. Apartment feels empty without you. Give it time. You'll make it home. It already feels like home when you're here. Adrian looked at his phone for a long moment, then typed, I want you to meet Lily. Not right away, but soon. I want you to know both parts of my life. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, are you sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Okay, then yes. I'd love to meet her. Just tell me when you're ready. I'll figure it out. He meant it. Somehow, he'd find a way to introduce Victoria into Lily's world without disrupting the careful balance they'd built. He'd be honest about who she was, what she meant to him, why this mattered. But first, he needed to make sure Lily was truly ready, that she understood what she'd been giving him permission for. The next morning, Adrian made pancakes, Lily's favorite, and broached the subject carefully. Remember when you asked me if I wanted to fall in love again? Lily looked up from drowning her pancakes in syrup. Uh-huh. What made you think about that? She shrugged. Emma's sad because her parents don't love each other anymore. And you're sad sometimes too, even when you pretend you're not. I thought maybe if you had someone to love, you wouldn't be sad. Adrian's throat tightened. I'm not sad, baby. Maybe a little lonely sometimes, but that's different. So do you? Want to fall in love again? I think I might already be. Starting to, anyway, with someone I work with. Someone who's very kind and smart, and who I care about a lot. Lily's eyes went wide. Really? Do I know her? Not yet, but I'd like you to meet her someday, if that's okay with you. Is she pretty? Adrian smiled. Very, but more importantly, she's good, and she wants to meet you too. Does she like dinosaurs? I don't know. We could ask her. Lily considered this seriously. Okay, but Daddy, she can't replace Mommy. No one can replace Mommy. Adrian reached across the table, took his daughter's small hand in his. No one will ever replace your mom, Lily Pad. Ever. Your mom was special and important, and she loved you more than anything. But that doesn't mean we can't let other people into our lives who also care about us. Does that make sense? I think so. She squeezed his hand. When do I get to meet her? Soon. But first I need to make sure you're really okay with this. That it's not just you being nice because you think I'm lonely. Daddy, I'm 7. I'm not that nice. She grinned, then sobered. I want you to be happy. For real happy. Not just pretend. If this lady makes you happy, then I want to meet her. Adrian felt something shift in his chest, some final barrier crumbling. His daughter, his wise, generous 7-year-old daughter, was giving him permission to move forward, to build something new without abandoning what they'd had. He texted Victoria later. Told Lily about you. She wants to meet you. Says you have to like dinosaurs, though. I can work with that. When? Company picnic next month? Family event, casual, public, low pressure? Perfect. Send me everything I need to know about dinosaurs. You're sure about this? Adrian, I've never been more sure of anything. And as the weeks rolled forward toward that meeting, toward the moment when his two worlds would collide, Adrian felt something he hadn't felt in 4 years. Not just hope, certainty. This was right. Scary and complicated and right. And whatever happened next, they'd face it together. The Morrison and Cross annual company picnic was held the second Saturday in June at Prospect Park, and Adrian had been silently dreading it for 3 weeks. Not because of the forced corporate bonding or the questionable potato salad that appeared every year, but because it was the day Victoria would meet Lily. The morning of the picnic, Adrian woke at 6 to find his daughter already awake, standing beside his bed with her favorite stuffed triceratops clutched in one hand. Is today the day I meet her? Lily whispered, as if speaking too loud might shatter something fragile. Adrian sat up, rubbed sleep from his eyes. Yeah, baby, today's the day. You nervous? A little. What if she doesn't like me? Lily, that's impossible. You're the most likable person I know. You have to say that. You're my dad. She climbed onto the bed, settled against his side. What if I don't like her? The question was fair, terrifying, and exactly what Adrian had been losing sleep over. Then we talk about it, honestly, and we figure out what that means together. But I think you will like her. She's excited to meet you. Did you tell her about my dinosaur collection? I did. She's been studying up. Lily's eyes widened. Really? Really? She wants to make a good impression, too. They spent the morning getting ready with unusual care. Lily changed outfits 3 times, finally settling on her favorite purple dress with the dinosaur patches she'd insisted Adrian sew on last month. Adrian tried on 2 different shirts before Lily declared the blue one made him look fancy, but not too fancy. Are you nervous too, Daddy? She asked as they walked to the subway. Terrified, he admitted. Good. Mrs. Chen says being nervous means you care about something. Mrs. Chen is very wise. The park was already filling with Morrison and Cross employees and their families when they arrived. Adrian spotted his colleagues clustered around picnic tables, kids running wild near the playground, the smell of grilling burgers drifting through the air. His heart was hammering so hard he could feel it in his throat. Victoria wasn't there yet. She'd texted an hour ago that her flight from Chicago had landed, that she was on her way, that she was nervous enough to throw up, but in a good way. Marcus waved them over to a table where several other VPs had gathered with their families. Brooks? Good to see you. This must be the famous Lily. Hi, Lily said shyly, pressing closer to Adrian's side. My daughter Emma is around here somewhere. She's 8. You two might get along. Marcus gestured vaguely toward the playground. Want to go look for her? Lily shook her head, her grip on Adrian's hand tightening. I want to stay with my dad. Adrian squeezed her hand reassuringly. That's okay. We'll explore together. They got lemonade from the beverage table, found a quiet spot under a tree, and Adrian tried not to check his phone every 30 seconds. Lily sat cross-legged in the grass, her triceratops in her lap, watching the other kids with careful attention. There are a lot of people here, she observed. Yeah, the company's pretty big. Do you know all of them? Most of them. At least the ones in New York. What about the Chicago people? Adrian's pulse jumped. Some of them. Why? Because your special person is from Chicago now, right? So maybe her friends are here too. Before Adrian could answer, his phone buzzed. Victoria. I'm here, near the entrance. Where are you? His hands were shaking as he typed back, under the big oak tree, east side of the lawn, on my way. Breathing into a paper bag. Metaphorically, you've got this. Lily's excited to meet you. If I mess this up, I'm never forgiving myself. You won't mess this up. Adrian looked up and saw her walking across the grass, and his breath caught. She was wearing jeans and a simple white blouse, her hair down in loose waves, sunglasses perched on top of her head. She looked beautiful and nervous, and so focused on scanning the crowd that she almost walked past their tree. Victoria, Adrian called softly. She turned, saw them, and her whole face transformed with a smile that was equal parts relief and terror. She walked over slowly, giving Lily time to process, and Adrian stood, keeping hold of his daughter's hand. Hi, Victoria said, and her voice was steadier than Adrian expected. You must be Lily. I've heard so much about you. Lily looked up at her with those serious, assessing eyes that missed nothing. You're really pretty. Victoria laughed, a genuine sound that seemed to surprise her. Thank you. So are you. I love your dress. Are those dinosaurs? Yeah, I sewed them on myself. Well, Daddy helped. Lily held up her stuffed triceratops. This is Sarah. She's named after my mom. Adrian's heart clenched. He'd forgotten about that, about the day 6 months ago when Lily had suddenly announced her favorite stuffed animal needed a name and chosen her mother's without hesitation. Victoria crouched down to Lily's level, and Adrian could see the emotion flickering across her face. That's a beautiful name, and a very cool triceratops. They were herbivores, right? Plant eaters? Lily's eyes lit up. Yes, most people think they were mean because of the horns, but they were actually really gentle. They only fought when they had to protect their families. Like gentle giants. Exactly. Lily turned to Adrian, her previous nervousness evaporating. Daddy, she knows about dinosaurs. I told you she was smart, Adrian said, catching Victoria's eye. She looked at him with an expression of such naked hope that he had to look away before the emotion overwhelmed him. Can I sit with you guys? Victoria asked Lily. Or would you rather I give you some space? Lily considered this seriously. You can sit, but you have to tell me which dinosaur is your favorite. It's important. Well, Victoria said, settling onto the grass beside them, I've always been partial to velociraptors. They were small but incredibly intelligent, worked in teams, strategic hunters. That's a good choice, Lily pronounced. Daddy likes Brachiosaurus because they're tall and calm. I think that's boring, but he says everyone has different tastes. Your dad is a wise man. They sat there under the tree, the three of them, while Lily launched into an explanation of her entire dinosaur collection at home. Victoria listened with genuine attention, asking questions that showed she'd actually done her homework. Adrian watched them interact, his heart doing complicated things in his chest. This was his daughter, and the woman he was falling in love with, sharing space, finding common ground. It felt monumentally important and surprisingly natural all at once. Do you want to see the playground? Lily asked Victoria eventually. Daddy says I can't go alone because there are too many people, but if you come with us, we could all go. I would love that, Victoria said, standing and offering Lily her hand. Lily hesitated for just a second, then took it. Adrian stood too, and they walked across the lawn together, Lily between them chattering about the best slides and whether monkey bars were overrated. At the playground, Lily ran off to join a group of kids climbing on the equipment. Adrian and Victoria stood side by side, watching her, not quite touching, but close enough to feel the warmth of each other. She's amazing, Victoria said quietly. She likes you. You think? I know. She's holding your hand within 20 minutes of meeting you. That's practically an endorsement of your entire character. Victoria laughed, but there were tears in her eyes. I was so scared I'd say the wrong thing, be too stiff, not know how to connect with her. And then she made it easy. She's good at that, making people feel welcome. Adrian finally let himself reach for Victoria's hand, laced their fingers together. Thank you for doing this, for being here, for trying, for everything. Adrian, I would fly across the country every weekend if it meant getting to be part of this, part of both your lives. They stood there watching Lily play, their hands linked, and Adrian felt something settle in his chest, a rightness, a sense that the pieces of his life were finally starting to fit together in ways he'd stopped hoping for. Marcus appeared beside them, a beer in hand, his eyebrows raised. So this is the Victoria Hale I've been hearing about, the one who transferred to Chicago. Victoria turned, professional mask sliding into place. Marcus Chen, good to see you. How's the Chicago expansion treating you in the reports? Better than expected, actually. Your leadership's been solid. Marcus glanced at their joined hands, then at Adrian, then back to Victoria. A slow smile spread across his face. Well, this explains some things. Adrian felt his stomach drop. Marcus, relax, Brooks. Your secret's safe with me. Though it's not much of a secret if you're holding hands at a company picnic. He took a swig of his beer. For what it's worth, I think it's great. You both deserve some happiness. Just maybe don't let Morrison see you looking at each other like that. He's old school about workplace relationships. After Marcus wandered off, Victoria let out a shaky breath. That went better than expected. He's a good guy, discreet. Adrian squeezed her hand. But he's right. We should probably be more careful in public. I know, when I'm with you, I forget to pretend. Same. Lily came running back, her face flushed with excitement. There's face painting! Can I get a dinosaur painted on my face? Absolutely, Adrian said. Lead the way. The face painting station was manned by an enthusiastic college student with a rainbow of paint colors. Lily requested a T-Rex, spent 15 minutes in the chair getting painted, and emerged with a remarkably detailed dinosaur roaring across her left cheek. What do you think? She asked Victoria. I think you look fierce, like a paleontologist who can also wrestle prehistoric creatures. Lily giggled. That's not a real job. Maybe it should be. They got lunch from the buffet. Adrian loading up 2 plates while Victoria helped Lily navigate the crowd and found a quiet spot away from his colleagues. Lily ate her hamburger and chips with gusto, chattering between bites about school, her upcoming summer break, her friend Emma's new puppy. Victoria asked questions, remembered details, engaged with Lily like she genuinely cared about the answers. And watching them together, Adrian felt the last of his reservations crumble. This could work. It was working. After lunch, there were games organized for the kids: sack races, tug of war, a water balloon toss. Lily participated in the sack race with ferocious determination, coming in third and celebrating like she'd won an Olympic medal. Victoria cheered from the sidelines, and when Lily ran over after, she threw her arms around Victoria's waist in an impulsive hug. Victoria froze for just a second, then carefully hugged her back, her eyes finding Adrian's over Lily's head. The expression on her face was pure wonder. "You did amazing," Victoria told Lily. "Third place is incredible." "Next year, I'm going to win," Lily declared. "I just need to practice jumping in a sack." "I believe in you." As the afternoon wore on, Adrian watched his two worlds blend with increasing ease. Victoria pushed Lily on the swings. Lily showed Victoria her collection of interesting rocks she'd found near the playground. They sat on a blanket eating ice cream while Lily explained the complex social dynamics of her second-grade classroom. And Adrian, watching them together, felt something he'd thought was lost forever when Sarah died: a sense of family. As the picnic wound down and people started packing up, Lily yawned hugely, her face paint smudged, grass stains on her purple dress. "I think someone's tired," Adrian observed. "I'm not tired," Lily protested, then yawned again. "Okay, maybe a little." Victoria knelt down beside her. "I had so much fun meeting you today, Lily. Thank you for sharing your dad with me and teaching me about dinosaurs." "You're welcome. Are you going back to Chicago now?" "My flight's not until tomorrow afternoon. I'm staying at a hotel tonight." Lily looked at Adrian with a calculating expression that made him nervous. "Daddy, can Victoria come to dinner with us? We're having pizza night." Adrian's pulse jumped. "That's up to Victoria. She might be tired from traveling." "I'm not too tired for pizza," Victoria said carefully, "but only if you're both sure." "Please?" Lily grabbed Victoria's hand. "You can meet Mrs. Chen and see my dinosaur collection. The real one, not just Sarah." Adrian looked at Victoria, saw the hope and uncertainty in her eyes, and nodded. "Pizza night it is." They took the subway back to Brooklyn, Lily between them fighting sleep, her hand alternating between holding Adrian's and Victoria's. By the time they reached their stop, she was leaning heavily against Victoria's side, her eyes half closed. Mrs. Chen was watering plants on her stoop when they arrived. She took one look at the three of them, and her face broke into a knowing smile. "Well, hello. You must be Victoria. I'm Clara Chen. Come in, come in. I want to hear everything." Inside Mrs. Chen's apartment, over tea and the story of how the day had gone, Adrian watched Victoria charm his surrogate mother with the same genuine warmth she'd shown Lily. Mrs. Chen asked pointed questions about Victoria's work, her family, her intentions, and Victoria answered honestly, holding nothing back. "I care about Adrian," Victoria said, "and I want to be part of his and Lily's lives if they'll have me. I'm not trying to replace anyone or change what they built. I just want to add to it." Mrs. Chen studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Good answer. Adrian's been alone too long, and that little girl needs to see her father happy. You make him happy?" "I hope so." "He looks at you like you hung the moon, so I'd say yes." Mrs. Chen patted Victoria's hand. "You'll do. Just don't break his heart because I know where you live now." Victoria laughed. "Noted." At Adrian's apartment, Lily gave Victoria the grand tour, all 700 square feet of it. She showed off her dinosaur collection with elaborate backstories for each one, her bookshelf organized by color, the drawings she'd made of her family, including a stick figure that was clearly Sarah. Victoria studied that drawing carefully. "Your mom was beautiful. Lily told me you look like her." "We both do," Lily said matter-of-factly. "That's why Daddy keeps pictures everywhere, so we don't forget." Victoria looked at Adrian, and he saw understanding in her eyes. This wasn't about replacing Sarah or erasing the past. It was about honoring it while moving forward. They ordered pizza and ate on the living room floor because Lily insisted it was more fun that way. Victoria proved surprisingly good at balancing a paper plate and a slice while sitting cross-legged, and she laughed when Lily challenged her to see who could eat the most pepperoni off their slice without using hands. After dinner, Lily started fading fast. Adrian carried her to bed while Victoria cleaned up the pizza boxes, and when he came back, she was standing by the window looking out at the Brooklyn streetlights. "Hey," he said softly. She turned, and there were tears on her face. "Sorry, I'm just overwhelmed. In a good way. Adrian crossed the room, pulled her into his arms. Talk to me. I didn't know if I wanted kids. Never really thought about it because I was so focused on my career, but today with Lily, her voice broke. Adrian, I could love her. I think I already do. A little. Is that crazy? No, that's... He had to stop, collect himself. That's everything I was hoping for and afraid to ask. She's so special, so smart and kind and brave. You've done an incredible job with her. We've done an incredible job, me and Sarah together, and then me and Lily figuring it out as we went. Victoria pulled back enough to look at him. I'm not trying to take Sarah's place. I need you to know that. I could never... I know. And I would never ask you to. Sarah was Lily's mother, and she always will be. But that doesn't mean there isn't room for you too. Not as a replacement, but as something new. Someone who cares about both of us and wants to build something with us. Is that what we're doing? Building something? Adrian cupped her face in his hands. Yeah, I think we are. Something real, something lasting. They kissed, slow and deep, and Adrian felt the last of his defenses crumble. He'd been so careful for so long, protecting himself and Lily from the possibility of loss. But standing here with Victoria in his living room, with his daughter sleeping down the hall, and the future stretching out uncertain and terrifying and full of possibility, he realized something important. Love was worth the risk, always had been. They stayed up late talking in whispers on the couch, Victoria's head on his shoulder, making plans for how to navigate the distance, the logistics, the introduction of their relationship to the wider world. She'd come back in 2 weeks for a long weekend. He'd visit Chicago the month after. They'd video call every night so Lily could talk to Victoria too, if she wanted. And sometime in the fall, if things kept going well, they'd start talking about bigger changes. Victoria may be splitting time between offices. Adrian potentially exploring a transfer to Chicago. Nothing definite, nothing rushed, but the beginning of a conversation about what a shared future might look like. When Victoria finally left at midnight to catch a cab to her hotel, Adrian walked her down to the street. They stood on the sidewalk under the streetlights, holding hands like teenagers afraid to say goodbye. Thank you for today, Victoria said, for trusting me with Lily, for letting me into your life. Thank you for being brave enough to try. Adrian kissed her forehead. Text me when you get to your hotel. Always. He watched her cab disappear into Brooklyn traffic, then walked back upstairs to find Lily standing in the living room in her pajamas, rubbing sleep from her eyes. Is Victoria gone? Yeah, baby. Back to her hotel. She has a flight tomorrow. Can she come back soon? Adrian picked her up even though she was getting too big for it, settled onto the couch with her in his lap. Would you like that? Yeah, she's nice and funny, and she knows about velociraptors. Lily yawned against his shoulder. Are you going to marry her? The question hit Adrian like a physical blow. What? Lily, that's not... It's okay if you do. I wouldn't be sad. I think Mommy would want you to be happy. Adrian's throat closed up completely. He held his daughter tighter, overwhelmed by her wisdom, her generosity, her ability to love without reservation. I don't know what's going to happen, Lily Pad. Victoria and I are still figuring things out, but I promise you'll always be my #1 priority. Always, no matter what. I know, Daddy. She pulled back to look at him with those serious eyes. But you can have 2 #1 priorities. Mrs. Chen told me. She said love doesn't divide, it multiplies. Mrs. Chen is very wise. That's what I keep telling you. Adrian carried Lily back to bed, tucked her in, sat beside her until she fell asleep with Sarah the Triceratops clutched in her arms. He thought about Sarah, his wife, Lily's mother, the woman he'd loved and lost. She would want this for him, he realized. Would want him to find happiness again, to give Lily a chance at a fuller family. The thought didn't make him sad. It made him grateful. His phone buzzed. Victoria. At hotel, missing you already. Today was perfect. Lily is perfect. You're perfect. I'm the luckiest person alive. Adrian smiled, typed back. She asked if I was going to marry you. What? What did you tell her? That we're figuring things out. That she'll always be my priority. And she said love doesn't divide, it multiplies, courtesy of Mrs. Chen's wisdom. A long pause, then, that kid is going to rule the world someday. Without question. Adrian? Yeah? I love you. I know it's too soon to say it, and I don't expect you to say it back, but I need you to know. I love you, and I love the life you've built, and I want to be part of it so badly it scares me. Adrian stared at his phone, his heart pounding. 3 months ago, he'd been in a hotel room in Chicago making a choice that would change everything. And now here he was, reading those 3 words from a woman who'd upended her life for a chance at something real. He typed, I love you too. I think I have for a while now. I was just too scared to admit it. Not too scared anymore? Still terrified. But doing it anyway. That's the bravest thing I've ever heard. Learned it from a 7-year-old who's smarter than both of us combined. They texted until past 2 in the morning, saying things that felt too important for phone calls, too vulnerable for daylight. And when Adrian finally fell asleep, it was with a sense of peace he hadn't felt in years. The future was uncertain. Long distance was hard. Blending families was complicated. But they had intention. They had choice. They had love. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Summer dissolved into fall in a blur of video calls and plane tickets and the slow, careful building of something that felt increasingly like forever. Victoria flew to New York twice more, staying in hotels but spending every available moment with Adrian and Lily. Adrian made 3 trips to Chicago, each one harder to leave than the last. And through it all, Lily bloomed under the attention of 2 adults who clearly adored her. By October, the arrangement was starting to crack under its own weight. Adrian was sitting in his office on a Wednesday afternoon reviewing contracts when Victoria called. Not texted, called. In the middle of the workday. His stomach immediately tightened with worry. What's wrong, he answered. Nothing's wrong. Everything's actually really right, which is why I need to talk to you. She paused. I got an offer from the New York office. Morrison called me personally. Adrian's heart stopped. What kind of offer? Executive VP of Strategic Development. New position. They're creating it specifically to handle the integration between regional offices. It's based in New York, but requires travel to Chicago quarterly. Her voice was careful, controlled. Adrian, they want me back, and I want to say yes, but only if you're okay with it. Why wouldn't I be okay with it? Because it changes everything. We've been doing this careful dance, keeping distance between us professionally, making sure no one can accuse us of impropriety. If I move back to New York, we're in the same office again. People will talk. Adrian stood, paced to his window overlooking Manhattan. Let them talk. Victoria, I've been dying slowly for the past 4 months. Seeing you every few weeks, saying goodbye at airports. Watching Lily ask when you're coming back, it's killing me. If you want to come back, if this is what you want professionally, then yes. 1,000 times yes. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. He heard her exhale shakily. Okay. Then I'm saying yes. I'm coming home. The word home hit Adrian like a physical thing. Not Chicago, home, New York, where he and Lily were. When? He asked. They want me to start December 1st. That gives me time to wrap things in Chicago, find an apartment in New York, actually plan this instead of just running toward it blind. Move in with us. Silence. Long enough that Adrian thought the call had dropped. Adrian, I know it's fast, I know it's crazy, but we've been doing this for 7 months, and I'm tired of pretending this is casual or temporary. Move in with us. Not right away. Take time to settle back. Let Lily adjust to having you around more. But Victoria, I want to build a life with you. An actual life, not just stolen weekends and phone calls. What about Lily? Have you talked to her about this? Not yet, but I will. Tonight. Adrian pressed his forehead against the cool glass. She asks about you constantly, tells her friends at school about her dad's person in Chicago. She drew a picture last week of our family and you were in it. She's ready for this. I think she's been ready longer than I have. Another long pause. I need to think about this. Not because I don't want it, but because I need to make sure I'm doing this for the right reasons. Not just running toward you, but actively choosing this life. Take all the time you need. The offer stands. That evening, Adrian made Lily's favorite dinner, spaghetti with the special sauce that took 3 hours and created a disaster in the kitchen, and broached the subject over garlic bread. Victoria might be moving back to New York for work. Lily's face lit up like Christmas morning. Really? When? Can we see her more? A lot more. That's actually what I wanted to talk to you about. Adrian set down his fork, trying to find the right words. How would you feel if Victoria lived with us? Not right away, but maybe in a few months. She'd have her own room, her own space, but she'd be here, part of our family. Lily was quiet for a moment, twirling pasta on her fork with careful concentration. Would she be like my mom then? No, baby. She'd be Victoria. Someone who cares about both of us and wants to be part of our lives. Your mom will always be your mom. Nothing changes that. But Victoria would be like a stepmom? Eventually, maybe, if things keep going the way they are. Would that bother you? Lily looked up at him with those serious eyes. Emma's stepmom is mean. She doesn't let Emma eat dessert, and she's always on her phone. Adrian's stomach dropped. Victoria's not like that. I know. Victoria's nice. She listens when I talk, and she remembers things I tell her. Lily took a bite of spaghetti, chewed thoughtfully. If she lives here, can she help me with my science project? You're terrible at science. He laughed, relief flooding through him. Yes, she can help with science. So, you're okay with this? Daddy, I've been okay with this since the picnic. You're the one who's been scared. She grinned at him, sauce on her chin. Mrs. Chen says you think too much. Mrs. Chen needs to stop analyzing my psychological state with my 7-year-old daughter. 8 and 2 months, Lily corrected, and Mrs. Chen is usually right. After dinner, while Lily was taking a bath, Adrian texted Victoria. Talk to Lily. She's in. Wants to know if you can help with her science project because apparently I'm terrible at science. Victoria's response came quickly. I'm crying in my apartment. Happy crying. Tell her I would be honored to help with science. So is that a yes? To moving in eventually? That's a yes to everything. To New York, to your apartment, to building this life together. I'm all in, Adrian. I love you. I love you too. So much it scares me. Good scared or bad scared? The best kind of scared. The next 2 months were a whirlwind of logistics and planning. Victoria accepted the New York position officially, gave notice in Chicago, started apartment hunting before Adrian reminded her she didn't need to. They decided she'd get a small place initially, not because they were hedging their bets, but because Lily needed time to adjust to the idea before waking up to Victoria at breakfast every morning. Victoria flew to New York the week before Thanksgiving to look at apartments and told Adrian to bring Lily along. I want her input, Victoria said over the phone. This affects her too. She should have a say. They met Victoria at a building in Park Slope, 3 blocks from Adrian's apartment. The unit was a 1-bedroom on the 4th floor with good light and hardwood floors, and a kitchen that made Victoria's eyes light up. What do you think, Lily? Victoria asked. Is this too close to you guys? Would you feel crowded? Lily walked through the apartment with the seriousness of a real estate appraiser. She checked the closets, tested the water pressure in the bathroom sink, stood in the bedroom considering the space. It's good, she pronounced finally. You can walk to our place easy, and there's a bakery downstairs, so you can bring us croissants. Victoria laughed. Croissants, got it. What else? The bedroom is big enough for a desk, so you can work from home sometimes, and the living room has space for a bookshelf. Lily looked up at Victoria. Do you have a lot of books? Quite a few. Do you like books? I love books. Daddy reads to me every night before bed. Maybe I could read to you sometimes too, if you wanted. Lily considered this. You'd have to do the voices. Daddy's really good at voices. I'll practice, Victoria promised. She signed the lease that afternoon. Her move-in date was set for December 10th, which gave her time to wrap up in Chicago and ship her belongings. Adrian helped her plan, made lists, coordinated with movers, and through it all felt a growing sense of rightness. This was happening, really happening. Thanksgiving week, Victoria came to New York and Adrian invited her to their apartment for dinner. Mrs. Chen came too, along with 2 other neighbors from the building who'd become part of their makeshift family over the years. It was chaotic and loud and perfect, and watching Victoria help Lily set the table while arguing playfully about the correct placement of forks, Adrian felt his chest swell with emotion. After dinner, while the adults had coffee and Lily showed off her latest dinosaur facts to anyone who would listen, Mrs. Chen pulled Adrian aside. You're going to marry her, she said, not a question. Yeah, I am. Not yet. We need more time. Lily needs to adjust. But eventually. Good. She's perfect for you, for both of you. Mrs. Chen smiled. Sarah would approve, you know. She always wanted you to find happiness again. Adrian's eyes stung. You think? I know. She told me once, near the end when she knew she was sick, made me promise to make sure you didn't close yourself off, didn't use Lily as an excuse to never risk your heart again. Mrs. Chen patted his arm. You're honoring her memory by living fully. Don't ever doubt that. The week Victoria moved into her new apartment, Adrian took 2 days off work to help. Lily came along, appointed herself the official unpacker of books, and created an elaborate organizational system that made no sense to anyone but her. Romance novels go next to science fiction because they're both about possibilities, she explained seriously while Victoria tried not to laugh. That's actually kind of profound, Victoria said. I'm a profound person. Daddy says so. By the end of the second day, the apartment was mostly settled. Lily had fallen asleep on Victoria's couch, exhausted from helping, and Adrian carried her to his apartment while Victoria finished organizing the kitchen. When he came back, Victoria was standing in her living room looking overwhelmed. I'm here, she said softly. Actually, here, in New York, 3 blocks from you. Adrian crossed to her, pulled her into his arms. How does it feel? Terrifying, perfect, right. She buried her face in his shoulder. I keep waiting for something to go wrong, for this to fall apart. It's not going to fall apart. You can't promise that. No, but I can promise to fight for it. For us, every single day. They stood there holding each other as the city hummed outside the windows, and Adrian thought about the path that had led them here. A storm, a hotel room, a choice to be brave instead of safe. Victoria started her new position at Morrison & Cross the first week of December. The office gossip mill went into overdrive, the prodigal VP returning, a new executive role, whispers about why she'd left in the first place and why she was back. Adrian ignored it all. Let people talk. He and Victoria had nothing to hide. On her third day back, Morrison called them both into his office. Adrian's stomach dropped as they rode the elevator up. Do you think? Let me handle this, Victoria said quietly. Morrison was waiting at his desk, his expression unreadable. Sit. Both of you. They sat. Morrison steepled his fingers, studied them both. I'm not an idiot. Neither is anyone else in this office. You two have been involved for what, 6 months? 7? 8, Victoria said calmly. Since March. We disclosed it to HR before I transferred to Chicago. Everything has been above board. And your return to New York is purely professional. The strategic development position is a genuine need, and I'm the best candidate. You know it, I know it, and the board knows it. My relationship with Adrian is separate from my professional qualifications. Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed. I don't like workplace relationships. They're messy, complicated, and they usually end badly. We're not planning to end badly, Adrian said. No one ever does. But here's the thing. You're both exceptional at your jobs. Victoria, your work in Chicago exceeded every expectation. Adrian, you've built the strongest client relationships in the firm. I'd be an idiot to lose either of you over this. He leaned forward. So I'm giving you my blessing, officially. Date, move in together, get married for all I care. Just keep it professional at work and don't make me regret this. Adrian felt like he'd been holding his breath for months and could finally exhale. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me. Just keep performing at this level. Morrison waved them out. Now, get out of here. I have actual work to do. In the elevator down, Victoria started laughing. Did that just happen? I think Morrison just gave us permission to get married. Is that a proposal, Brooks? Not yet, but it's coming. She kissed him right there in the elevator, and Adrian didn't care who saw. The next few months were about integration and adjustment. Victoria came to dinner 3 nights a week, then 4, then 5. She helped Lily with homework, read bedtime stories in funny voices that made Lily shriek with laughter, and slowly became a fixture in their daily routine. By March, exactly 1 year after Chicago, Victoria had a drawer at Adrian's apartment, then a closet shelf, then half the bathroom counter. The transition was so gradual that Adrian almost didn't notice until he woke up one Saturday in April to find Victoria making pancakes while Lily set the table, and realized this was already his life. She just didn't officially live there yet. That evening, after Lily went to bed, Adrian brought it up. "You're here all the time anyway. Your apartment is basically just storage at this point. Why don't you move in?" "For real?" Victoria looked up from the book she was reading. "Are you sure Lily's ready?" "I'm sure. She asked me last week why you still have another apartment. Said it seemed silly when you're always here anyway." "She said that?" Direct quote. "She's 8 now. She doesn't mince words." Victoria set down her book, came to sit beside him on the couch. "I want to. I've wanted to for months. But Adrian, if I move in, that's it for me. That's full commitment. That's being a co-parent, being part of every decision, every challenge. I need to know you're ready for that." "I'm ready. I've been ready." He took her hand. "Victoria, you're already co-parenting. You helped Lily study for her spelling test last week. You took her shopping for new shoes because she insisted only you understood her style. You're at every school event, every parent-teacher conference. The only difference is you go home to sleep somewhere else." "What about Sarah? Her memory? Her place in Lily's life?" "Sarah will always be Lily's mother. We keep her pictures up. We talk about her. We honor her memory. But that doesn't mean Lily can't have you too. Different roles, different relationships. There's room for both." Victoria's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Okay, yes, I'll move in. But I have one condition." "Name it." "We tell Lily together. Make it official. Let her know this is permanent, that I'm choosing both of you, that this is her family now." They told Lily the next morning over breakfast. Adrian had made his special pancakes, the ones he only made for important occasions, and Lily immediately knew something was up. "Why are we having celebration pancakes?" she asked suspiciously. "Because Victoria's moving in with us," Adrian said. "Officially, if you're okay with that." Lily looked between them, her expression serious. "Like forever moving in, not just staying over sometimes?" "Like forever," Victoria confirmed. "I'd be here every day, part of your family. If you want me to be." Lily was quiet for a moment, and Adrian felt his heart rate spike. What if she said no? What if they'd pushed too fast? Then Lily grinned, gap-toothed and brilliant. "Finally! I've been waiting forever for you guys to figure this out. Can we turn your office into a second guest room so Emma can sleep over?" Adrian laughed, relief flooding through him. "We'll see." "That's parent speak for maybe," Lily told Victoria. "You'll learn." Victoria moved in the first week of May. They combined households carefully, making space for her belongings while keeping everything that mattered to Lily. Sarah's pictures stayed up. The dinosaur collection remained prominently displayed, but Victoria's books filled the shelves. Her coffee mugs appeared in the kitchen. Her presence transformed the apartment from a space Adrian and Lily inhabited into a home all three of them shared. The adjustment wasn't seamless. There were arguments about morning routines and whose turn it was to do dishes. Lily occasionally pushed boundaries, testing whether Victoria's presence was permanent or conditional. Victoria sometimes tried too hard, overcompensating for fear of overstepping. But they worked through it, together, with honesty and patience and the kind of commitment that made mistakes forgivable. By summer, the three of them had found a rhythm that felt natural. Morning coffee while Lily ate cereal and chattered about her day ahead. Evening dinners where everyone shared their highs and lows. Weekend adventures to museums and parks, and the bookstore where Lily could spend an hour choosing just the right novel. In June, on the anniversary of the company picnic where Victoria had first met Lily, Adrian took them both to Prospect Park. Same spot under the oak tree where they'd sat that first day. He'd planned this carefully, bought the ring 3 weeks earlier, rehearsed what he wanted to say. But when the moment came, the prepared speech evaporated. "Lily," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "Come here a second." She bounded over from where she'd been examining interesting leaves, plopped down on the blanket beside Victoria. "What's up, Daddy?" Adrian pulled out the small velvet box, opened it to reveal a simple, elegant diamond ring. Victoria's eyes went wide. "A year ago today, I introduced you to. And in that year, we've become something I never thought I'd have again, a family. Not just me and Lily, but all three of us together." He looked at Victoria, whose hands were pressed to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. "Victoria, you've shown up for us every single day. You've loved Lily like she's your own. You've been patient with my fears. You've built this life with us piece by piece. I don't want to do another day without you as my partner in everything. He turned to Lily. Is it okay with you if I ask Victoria to marry us? Both of us? Lily nodded vigorously. Yes! Ask her! Adrian looked back at Victoria. Will you marry me? Marry us? Be part of this family officially and forever? Victoria was crying too hard to speak. She nodded, laughing and sobbing simultaneously, and Adrian slipped the ring on her finger with shaking hands. Lily threw her arms around both of them, and they sat there under the oak tree holding each other while people walked past, and the world continued around them, oblivious to the perfect moment unfolding. I love you, Victoria said when she could finally speak. Both of you. So much. We love you too, Lily said matter-of-factly. Can we get ice cream now to celebrate? They got ice cream. They called Mrs. Chen, who cried and said she'd known from the beginning. They walked through Brooklyn as the sun set, three people who'd found each other through a combination of circumstance and choice and sheer stubborn determination. That night, after Lily was asleep, Adrian and Victoria sat on the fire escape looking out at the city. I can't believe this is my life, Victoria said. A year and a half ago, I was alone in New York working 80-hour weeks and convinced I'd missed my chance at this. A year and a half ago, I was convinced I'd never risk my heart again. What changed? A storm, a hotel room, a choice to be brave instead of safe. Adrian laced their fingers together. You changed everything. We changed everything, Victoria corrected, together. They were married in October in the same park where Adrian had proposed. A small ceremony, just close friends, family, and colleagues. Mrs. Chen officiated, having gotten ordained online specifically for the occasion. Marcus was Adrian's best man, and Lily served as both flower girl and ring bearer, taking her duties with utmost seriousness. The ceremony was simple, heartfelt, and deliberately included Sarah's memory. Adrian spoke about how Sarah had taught him what love looked like, how her death had taught him resilience, and how her memory had taught him that hearts could hold multiple truths simultaneously, grief and joy, past and future, loss and new beginnings. Victoria spoke about choosing this family, about how love wasn't about replacing what was lost, but honoring it while building something new, about how Lily had taught her what it meant to show up every day, to earn trust through consistency, to become family not through biology, but through choice. And Lily, when asked if she accepted Victoria into their family, said simply, "She's already family. We're just making it official now." There wasn't a dry eye in the park. The reception was at a small restaurant nearby, casual and filled with laughter. Lily gave a toast that was mostly about dinosaurs, but ended with a declaration that she was really happy her dad found someone who makes good pancakes and doesn't mind her rock collection. Adrian and Victoria's first dance was to a song Lily had helped choose, something about home and belonging and finding your people. And as they swayed together under string lights with their daughter watching and cheering, Adrian felt a profound sense of completion. This was it. The life he'd stopped believing was possible. Months turned into years. Lily grew from 8 to 10 to 12, navigating school and friendships, and eventually the complicated territory of adolescence with two parents who loved her fiercely and a mother's memory they kept alive through stories and photographs and honoring her birthday every year. Victoria and Adrian navigated careers and parenting and the daily negotiations of merged lives. They had arguments and makeups and moments of profound connection. They built traditions: Sunday morning pancakes, Thursday movie nights, annual trips to museums and national parks. And through it all, they chose each other, every single day. On their 5th anniversary, Adrian woke to find Lily, now 13 and startlingly grown, sitting at the kitchen table with Victoria, both of them laughing over some inside joke. "What's so funny?" he asked, pouring coffee. "Victoria was just telling me about the storm that stranded you guys in Chicago," Lily said, "the one where you had to share a hotel room." Adrian's coffee cup paused halfway to his mouth. They'd told Lily an edited version of that story years ago, omitting certain details she didn't need to know. "And?" he asked carefully. "And I think it's funny that you were both too scared to admit you liked each other. Adults are so weird about feelings." Lily grinned. "Good thing the universe forced you into one room, otherwise you'd probably still be dancing around each other." Victoria caught Adrian's eye, and they both started laughing. "You're right," Adrian admitted. We probably would be. Well, I'm glad you figured it out, Lily said, standing to grab her backpack. Because I kind of like having both of you around, even when you're being embarrassing. She kissed both of them on the cheek and headed out to meet friends, leaving Adrian and Victoria alone in the kitchen they'd shared for years. We did good, Victoria said softly. Yeah, we really did. Adrian thought about the path that had led them here, a canceled flight, a storm. One room with one bed and a choice between safety and risk. He'd chosen risk, and it had changed everything. The storm had forced them together, but courage had turned one night into a lifetime. And for the first time since loss had reshaped his world, Adrian wasn't just surviving. He was living, fully, completely, joyfully living. With the woman he loved and the daughter they were raising together, building a life that honored the past while embracing the future. It hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it, every single moment.